Alright folks, this is Harris Sultan. In the last 3 weeks alone, we've seen a group of thuggish Afghan asylum seekers beat up a lifeguard at a Melbourne swimming centre. Just a couple of days ago, another Afghan refugee told an Israeli that he had killed many Jewish patients. And today, yet another Afghan asylum seeker rammed his car into a crowd in Munich, injuring 28 people, including small children, 2 of whom are in serious condition. At some point, you have to ask, how did this madness start and when will it end? These people were allowed into Australia, Britain, the US, and especially Germany on the premise that they did not want to live under the brutal rule of the Taliban. In other words, these Western countries took pity on them and gave them shelter. But this is how they repay this kindness: by killing, raping, and injuring their citizens. Sure, many of them are disgruntled asylum seekers who lash out when their asylum applications are rejected. But is that all? The Afghan refugee nurse who told the Israeli that he has killed many Jewish patients, he wasn't a disgruntled asylum seeker. He became an Australian citizen back in 2020 and had no reason to blurt out the hateful diatribe that he did. The asylum seekers who beat up a lifeguard at a Melbourne swimming centre, they weren't disgruntled either. They simply thought that it was acceptable to attack a young man doing his job after he told them not to do backflips in the pool, thereby endangering the safety of others. Islam can clearly be blamed in the first incident at least, because hating Jews is one of the core tenets of Islam. And now, on the 13th of February, an Afghan refugee rammed his car into a crowd, and when he was arrested, he was chanting Ya Allah, similar to Allahu Akbar.
Ya Allah! Okay. Ya Allah! Ya Allah!
Now, apparently his asylum application had been rejected, yet he was still allowed to stay in Germany. When you reject a desperate person's asylum application, he's a ticking time bomb. Why would you not deport him? The sooner you can get him out of the country, the sooner you can ensure the public safety. That's what Trump is doing in America. Why can't other Western countries do the same? Also, whenever their asylum application gets rejected and they lash out, why do they always chant Islamist slogans? If it's got nothing to do with Islam and it's only got to do with them lashing out at the inhumane immigration policies, then why do they always chant Islamist slogans? Why don't they say death to German immigration? It's because they were sent to stay there as sleeper cells, and whenever they are activated, they must lash out. But obviously when the asylum application gets rejected, that plan goes out of the window, so they lash out. Oh wait, I haven't even told you about the worst part of this attack yet. Immediately after news of this vicious attack broke, some German families came out and protested for tougher immigration laws. Quite reasonable, I think. But our pathological, altruistic, blue-haired, tree-hugging wokies turned up in huge numbers and started harassing and intimidating these people, who were simply saying what any person with any common sense would say. Just how rotten our entire system across the entire Western world is can be understood by looking at how various media outlets frame these kinds of events. I use ground news to keep myself in check because I don't want to get stuck in my echo chamber. And no, ground news isn't sponsoring this video and I'm not getting paid by them. I just use them because I think it's a useful tool. Have a look at the framing by the left and then by the right. The left use words like a young man and said a car drove into a crowd. Oh yeah? Was it a self-driving car? No, the car did not drive by itself. It was an Afghan failed asylum seeker who deliberately drove into a crowd. This is how the right reported it. They said a driver intentionally rammed a car and identified the driver as a 24-year-old Afghan asylum seeker, as they should. And when you go further into these articles, they actually mention his Islamist angle as well. No wonder most left-leaning young Germans, Brits, and Americans hate themselves. They're not even getting the news right. Now, this is not an isolated incident. Germany has been rocked by violent attacks by asylum seekers in recent months. Let me give you a brief history of violent crimes committed by asylum seekers and illegal migrants. On 22nd of January this year, another Afghan migrant fatally stabbed a 2-year-old Moroccan baby, and when a German man tried to stop the attack, he lost his life too. On 23rd of August 2024, a Syrian asylum seeker identified only as Isa al-Hajj attacked attendees at a festival in Solingen, resulting in 3 deaths and 8 injuries. The assailant was suspected of having ties to the Islamic State and had been under a deportation order which wasn't carried out. Who's responsible for that loss of life? On 15th of June 2024, another Afghan migrant, jeez, these Afghan migrants, they're not slowing down, attacked a private party celebrating the opening of the UEFA Euro 2024 football tournament. The assailant fatally stabbed a 23-year-old Afghan man and injured 3 others before being shot dead by police upon their arrival. And of course, who could forget the infamous Mannheim stabbings, where another Afghan asylum seeker fatally stabbed a police officer in Mannheim, Germany. The poor officer, trained by this woke ideology, unfortunately saw the Afghan asylum seeker as the victim and foolishly intervened on his behalf, only to be stabbed in the neck by the very person he was trying to protect. That attack shook Germany, but almost a year later, German authorities have learned absolutely nothing. I'm sure there have been more attacks that didn't make it into the mainstream media or even social media, and by the looks of it, this is not the end of these attacks. To make matters worse, when you think about it, Germany has been so generous in taking in asylum seekers from countries like Libya, Syria, and of course Afghanistan, but in return for its generosity, it has had its civilians raped, terrorized, and killed by the very same migrants it took in. These pathologically altruistic politicians in Germany, suffering from self-gratifying, suicidal, feel-good empathy, have actually lost a lot of political capital for the sake of these people who can't stop committing terrorist acts. The million-dollar question is, why? Now, this is the part that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, sure, maybe you don't care about the ordinary public, but surely you care about your prospects of winning the next election. So why are you doing this? Are you so deluded that despite all your terrible policies, you think people are so dumb that they will keep re-electing you? I don't think they will. I'm no expert in German politics, but even an outsider like myself can see why the AfD has a massive chance to win a lot of seats in the Bundestag.
Abschieben, abschieben. Ja, nein, nicht wie. Die Leute gehören hier nicht hin. Sie dürfen diese Leute erst gar nicht hier reinlassen. So fängt's an. Genau. Asylantrag abgelehnt. Nicht konkret. Weg mit diesen Leuten. Wenn Sie es wollen, dann können Sie diese Menschen abschieben. Und ich sage Ihnen, wir werden es tun. Wir werden Straftäter, abgelehnte Asylbewerber des Landes verweisen. Schluss aus, basta. Ich wünsche Ihnen einen schönen Tag.
It just boggles my mind. It actually breaks my heart too. Just before this video, I was talking to a police officer right here in Australia, and he was telling me that in almost every violent crime, refugees and asylum seekers are massively overrepresented here in Australia as well. And Australia is supposed to be the best of all Western countries. He was actually worried that Australia will be unrecognizable in 5 to 10 years. These incoming people, even when they're born here, don't fear the police and don't respect Australian laws or values. I think every country needs a Trump to put an end to this madness. Anyway, what do you think will happen? And what do you think should happen? Do you think the AfD will make serious inroads? Or do you think the German people have still not had enough and might have to endure another 4 years of bad governance and migrant violence before they finally say enough is enough? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, ta-da.